Today we are going to revise the chapter real numbers and the second chapter polynomials, okay, in our today's class. So starting with the real numbers, so what we are going to just revise in the real numbers is about the Euclid's division lemma and the Euclid's division algorithm and the fundamental theorem of the arithmetic, and then some of the things like how to show that root 2, root 3 and root 5 such numbers are the irrational numbers. Okay, so as we all know, the numbers which can be written in form of p upon q. Yes, so then looking at the more things, so just starting with the topic first. The first topic what we have is the Euclid's division lemma. So just looking at the definition of the Euclid's division lemma, so this says that in the Euclid's division lemma, given positive integers a and b, there exist unique integers q and r satisfying the condition a is equals to bq plus r, where r is greater than equals to 0 and less than b. Like we used to write dividend equals to divisor into quotient plus remainder, the same way we are writing this in this form. This is known as the Euclid's division algorithm based on the lemma. Okay, then what is the next thing we have? We have here, looking here, so like few of the terms, these are important terms because they may ask these terms in the MCQs form also. Okay, so looking here what we have an algorithm. So when we say algorithm is a series of well defined steps which gives a procedure for solving a type of a problem, and the word this algorithm, this all we know from where it's coming from. And then likewise the word algebra is coming from the book he wrote called the Hisab al-Zabr wal Muqabala. And lemma is a proven statement used for proving another statement, like in the we call in the geometry axioms. So this is the same way. Okay, so here we are calling it the lemma. Now just looking at this, suppose if we go through an example, if we see the example here, example is given, the two numbers are given 455 and 42. So 455 can be written as 42 into 10 plus 35, then 42 is equals to 35 into 42 is equals to 30. Method of finding the SCF by using the long division method. The same thing we have done here. Okay, like 455, the first dividend equals to divisor into quotient plus remainder, then we divide the small number, that is 42, by 35, and then the 42 is equals to 35 into 1, then remainder is the 7, then this 35 has to be divided by the 7 likewise. So when we get the remainder as a 0, in that case what we see, the last number by which we are dividing this, is the SCF. So we can see here the 7 is the SCF here, because 7 is the number which can divide both the numbers. It is the highest common factor. Okay, so in this way, so if you look at one more example, so what we have to do, we have to just keep in mind that we are not writing all these language every time. Just once you are writing, that is enough. Okay, so then you can easily write this, express this at dividend equals to divisor into quotient plus remainder in this form, till the time you are not getting the remainder as 0. Once you are getting the remainder as 0, it means our steps are complete, and the last term which we are getting means the last number by which we are able to divide it completely, that is called it as SCF. For example, here the SCF is 4. Okay, after this what we have in the next thing, so okay, so these examples we are not going to do because these are not in the part of this year's syllabus, as the syllabus is reduced, you know. So in the first exercise, what you have to do, in the first exercise you have to practice the first question and the question like the third question and like these questions, okay, where we are using. So we are skipping 2, 3, 2, 4 and 5th question here. Now next is we have the fundamental theorem of the arithmetic. Now when we talk about the fundamental theorem of the arithmetic, before that, as we know, like 1771, this number can be written as 7 into 11 into 23. So this number can be written as a product of the prime numbers. Likewise this number can be written as a product of the prime numbers. So in the same way, when we are writing this number in the form of 2 raised to power 3 into 7 raised to power 3, it means we have written this in the exponential form. So here the degree of 2 is 3, here the degree of 7 is 3 likewise. So according to the fundamental theorem of arithmetic, so according to this theorem, fundamental theorem of arithmetic, yes, we have here every composite number can be expressed as a product of the prime numbers, and this factorization is unique apart from the order in which the prime factors occur. Means, for example, suppose if you are writing like this here, 32760 as 2 into 2 into 2 into 3 into 3 into 5 into 7 to 13. So we have written here 2 raised to power 3 into 3 raised to power 2 into 5 into 7. Now we can change the order, means we can place the value of all these numbers anywhere. So that means we can change its order. So this is known as fundamental theorem of arithmetic. So moving towards how we are using this, we are using this what to find and which things we can find here. So before that, we're looking at the example number 5. Consider the number 4 raised to the power n, where n is a natural number. Check whether there is any value of n for which 4 raised to the power n ends with the digit 0. So if the number 4 raised to the power n, for any number n where to end with the digit 0, then it would be divisible by 5. It would be divisible by 5. Now we can easily see that the factors of 4 are only 2 into 2. So there is no 5 in this. It means it is not going to end with the digit 0. So it means this is, so this there is not possible, this is not possible, because 4 raised to the power n can be written as 2 raised to the power 2n. So only the prime factorization of 4 raised to the power n is 2. So the uniqueness of the fundamental theorem of arithmetic guarantees that there is no other prime number in the factorization 4 raised to the power n. So there is no natural number n for which 4 raised to the power ends with the digit 0. Now how to use this? Looking at the example number 6, find the LCM and the SCF of 6 and 20 by prime factorization. Now 6 can be written as 2 into 3, that is 2 raised to the power 1 to 3 raised to the power 1. Then 20 can be written as 2 into 2 into 5, that is 2 raised to the power 2 into 5. Now so SCF will be the highest common factor. So we can see here that 2 is common here and 2 is again common here. 2 raised to the power 2 is common. So what we can see among 2 and 2 raised to the power 2, only 2 is common and nothing else is common. So 2 is the SCF here. 2 is the SCF here. Now when we talk about the LCM, in case of LCM, we have to take the number which is uncommon. As we can see here, 3 is uncommon, 5 is uncommon, and 2 raised to the power 2 and 2 raised to the power 3. So among this we will take the number the 2 with the highest power, that is 2 raised to the power 2. So LCM will be here 2 into 2 into 3 into 5, that is 60. So few formulas which we have already know, like the product of the two numbers is equal to the product of their SCF and the product of their LCM. So that formula can also be used here. If you see here, it is written here, for any two positive integers a and b, SCF of a and b into LCM of a and b is equal to product of the numbers. So in the same way we can easily solve such questions. Yes. So for example, they have done also one question like find the SCF of 96 and 404 by prime factorization method and find their LCM. So after doing the prime factorization, we are easily find the SCF. Now for finding the LCM, we have two methods. Either we can use the formula or we can use that, yes, and the common numbers with the highest power, yes, the common factor and the uncommon factors likewise, or we can use this method also. Now so based on this, we have the exercise 1.2. Then we have the revisiting the irrational numbers. In this, what we have to do. So as we all know, what are the irrational numbers? Irrational numbers are those numbers which cannot not be written in a form of p upon q, where p and q are integers and q is not equals to 0. So just based on this only, if we see here how to solve these questions, if we see the theorem 1.4, or this can be taken as a question also, that prove that root 2 is irrational, root 2. So this will do by the method of the assumption and the method of the contradiction normally. So what to do? So looking here, let us assume to the contrary that root 2 is rational. If root 2 is rational, it means it can be written in a form of a upon b, where a and b are co-prime. Co-prime means numbers having only one as their SCF. So if we'll do the squaring on both sides, then the result will be 2 is equals to a square upon b square. Now if we do the cross multiplication, we get this, that is 2b square is equals to a square. It means 2 divides a square. It also means that 2 divides a, because if a number is dividing a square of a number, it means the number is also dividing the number itself. Then we have here, we can also write a is equals to 2c, where c is an integer. Then we can see here easily. So this can be, if we are squaring this, then we will get here a square is equals to 4c square. In place of a square, we can write here 2b square. So 2b square is equals to 4c square. Now we can cancel. So we can cancel here 2 and 4, so here we'll get 2. So we have b square is equals to 2c square. It means b square is divisible by 2, it means b is also divisible by 2, that is 2 divides b. So this is by the theorem. It means we have 2 as a common factor. So this contradicts the fact that a and b have no other common factor that one other than 1, because we have assumed them as a rational number, but we have proved here that a and b have no other common factor. They have a common factor other than 1, that is 2. So this contradiction has arisen because of our incorrect assumption. It means what we have assume that root 2 is irrational, that is completely wrong. It means answer is root 2 is irrational. In the same way we can solve the root 3, root 5, root 10 likewise. Now when we have the numbers in a form of combination, a rational number and an irrational number, whether they have and the sum of a rational irrational number or product of rational irrational numbers, or their division or their subtraction. For example, if we see the example number 10, what is here? It is given here that show that 5 minus root 3 irrational. So we have assumed again that 5 minus root 3 is rational. So it means it can be written as a form of a upon b. Now we are keeping all the rational numbers together, so this can be written as 5 minus a upon b is equals to root 3. Rearranging the equation, we get root 3 is equals to 5 minus a upon b, so that is 5 b minus a. Now we can see here easily that these all a and b are integers, so 5 minus a upon b is rational, so it means root 3 has to be rational, but we already know that root 3 irrational, that is it contradicts the fact that root 3 is irrational. So it means again our contradiction has arisen because of our incorrect assumption. So our assumption is wrong, therefore we conclude that root 5 minus root 3 is irrational number. So in the same way we can solve the product of rational irrational number and other numbers. Okay, then moving towards the next is, as we all know that the decimal expansion of the rational number means the rational numbers are either terminating decimal numbers or terminating and repeating decimal numbers. For example, we can see here these all are examples of rational numbers because these are terminating decimal numbers, right? So if it also means that these can be expressed like this, like denominator can be expressed as a product of 2 and 5, whether we have a 2 raised to power m, 2 raised to power n, or 5 raised to power m, 5 raised to power n, okay, or whether they have the same degree or whether they have the different degree. So that cases means they are the rational numbers because they can be converted into terminating decimals. But if other than 2 and 5 we have the numbers like 3, 7, then it means it is going to be the irrational numbers, because in that case the result will be a non-terminating and non-repeating decimal numbers. So this we have to keep in mind. Okay, this we have done in the class 9th also. So keeping those small things in mind, we can easily solve this. So now what we have next in this chapter, if we see, okay, so in the exercise 1.4, this action without actually performing, so this we can do now because we know the things how and we can solve this. Okay, so with this this is what we have in the first chapter. Now after this, what we are going to do, we'll just do the chapter number 2, that is polynomials. In the polynomials we know about the degrees of the polynomials. Okay, so the first thing we can see here, in a polynomials in a variable of x, the degree is 3 here. We can see here the degree is 3 here the degree is 2, means we have to see the variable with the highest power, that is called as degree. Likewise here, if we see the expression here, 1 over x minus 1 root x plus 2 and 1 over x square plus 2x plus 3. So these are not polynomials, because when we have the degrees, either we have the negative degrees or we have the degrees in a form of fractions. So that means that is not a polynomial. So polynomial of a degree 1 is called the linear polynomial. For example, 2x minus 3 root 3x plus 5. Only here root 3 root is with 3, that is root 3 only. So these are example of linear polynomial. In the quadratic we have a degree 2. Degree 2 means we have the highest degrees of 2 or the power is of 2. In cubic we have the degree of 3. So general form of a quadratic polynomial is 2x square plus ax square plus bx plus c. In case of cubic we have, in case of cubic we have here ax cube plus bx square plus cx plus d. Likewise, if we see here we can easily see here that here a, b, c are the coefficients and d is a constant, because a, b, c are with the variable and d is alone is not with the variable. Okay, then we talk about the zeros. If we say the zeros, for example, if we see here x square minus 3x minus 4 is a polynomial, and if we put x equals to 2, then the remainder we are getting is here minus 6. So minus 6 is the value on putting x is equals to 2. If since x remainder is not 0, it means it is not the 0 of the polynomial. For the 0 of the polynomial, if you put a value of a variable, the remainder should be 0. The remainder should be 0. Okay, so this we have already know about all these things. Now, so 0 of the polynomial means if you put the value of any variable and the remainder is coming 0, it means the 0 of the polynomial. Now, so we can see here that if in general, if k is a 0 of the polynomial ax plus b, then pk means ak plus b is equals to 0, that is k is equals to minus b upon a. So the zeros of the polynomial ax plus b is minus b upon a, that is constant minus of constant term upon coefficient of x here. Okay, thus the 0 of the linear polynomial is related to its coefficient. Now, does this happen with the other polynomials also? So before that, we'll do the geometrical meaning of the zeros of the polynomial. So how to do this? So looking here, so we can see here if we have a polynomial y is equals to 2x plus 3, and this is the line, this is the result, or this is the graph for this given equation, that is a equation of a line. So we can see here that this line is intersecting the x-axis, at how many points? Okay, so we will see the x-axis or the y-axis. In the same way, now when we see this, it is y is equal to x plus b, so it is having only one zero, of the polynomial, because it is intersecting the line at one point only. Now if we see here, now it is intersecting it line at how many points? Yes, if you see the x-axis, it is intersecting x 2 point, this 1 point and this second point. So it means its 0 should be 2, number of 0 should be 2. So in the same way, if we see here, so all these curves, this is intersecting x-axis at 1 point and second point, so number of zeros will be 2, here. Then again here, if we see here, it is just touching at 1 point, so the number of zeros in this case will be 1, only. So this depends on whether the polynomial is given in form of px or py. If it is given in form of px, then we have to check that x-axis has been cut how many times. In the same way, y if the polynomial is given in terms of y, then we have to check for the y-axis. So the same way we can easily solve the exercise number 1, like the example number 1 is given here. Okay, so we can see here it is y is equals to px in terms of x, so it is not intersecting x, so here zeros because not touching the line, so number of zeros are 0 here, it is 1 here only. Then here we have how many? 1, 2 and 3 here, we have here 1, 2, here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and here 1, 2, 3 only. So likewise, after this, the next topic is the relation between the zeros and the coefficient of a polynomial. For this, we just go through the one example. If we see here the example, it is given, a polynomial is given to us, that is 2x square minus 8x plus 6. Okay, so if we are taking 2 as a common and using the method of split the middle terms, and we are getting the factors of this as 2 into x minus 1 into x minus 3. So these are the factors. Now if these are the factors, what to do after this? Looking here, so it means now we know these x minus 1 is equals to 0 and x minus 3 is equals to 0. These are the two factors. It means from here we are getting either x is equals to 1 or x is equals to 3. So we have two zeros here. Now the sum of the zeros means 1 plus 3 is equals to 4. Now 4 can be written as 8 upon 2, or 8 can be written as minus of minus 8. Likewise, product of zeros is 1 into 3 means 3, which can be written as 6 upon 2. So it means here we have a relation that sum of the zeros is always equals to minus coefficient of x over coefficient of x square, and the product of zeros is equals to constant term over coefficient of x square. Now, so let us take one more quadratic polynomial. Okay, so let's take one more. Suppose if we are taking this 3x square plus 5x minus 2. On finding the product of these, or just finding the factors will be 3x minus 1 and x plus 2. It means zeros will be 1 upon 2 and minus 2. So these are 1 upon 3 and minus 2. So these are the zeros. So now we are finding the sum of the zeros. So sum of the zeros here is 1 upon 3 plus minus 2, that is minus 5 upon 3, which is equals to minus coefficient x upon coefficient x square, and product of zeros 1 upon 3 into minus 2, that is minus 2 upon 3 constant term upon coefficient of x square. In general, so if alpha and beta are the zeros, then we have alpha x minus alpha and x minus beta are the factors. If you multiply this, then ax square plus bx plus c can be written as k into x square minus k into alpha plus beta into x plus k alpha beta. K is where a constant. So it means alpha plus beta is equals to minus b upon a, and alpha into beta is equals to c upon a. So, or normally we used to say x square minus sum of the zeros into x plus product of the zeros. Okay, so now just moving this, so we have to always remember, whenever we find the sum of the zeros, it should always be equals to minus coefficient of x upon coefficient of x square. Likewise, product of zeros is always should be equals to constant term upon coefficient of x square. Now find the zeros of the quadratic polynomial x square plus 7x plus 10 and verify the relation between the zeros. Okay, so this now we can easily do. Now we have to see, in case of 2, suppose if we have the 3 values of x. Now for example number 5, verify 3 minus 1 minus 1 upon 3 are the zeros. In order to verify this, we have to put all these values in the given polynomial, that is 3x square minus 5x minus 11x minus 3. So on putting p is equals to 3, remainder is 0. On putting p is equals to minus 1, remainder is 0. On putting p is equals to minus 1 upon 3, again the remainder is equals to 0. So it means these are the zeros of the given polynomial. Now we have to verify this, we have to check. So we'll take alpha is equals to 3, beta is equals to minus 1, gamma is equals to 1 upon 3. Now sum of the zeros, alpha plus beta plus gamma, that is minus b upon a. Sum of the product of the zeros means alpha beta plus beta gamma plus gamma alpha is equals to c upon a. Then alpha beta gamma is equals to minus d upon a. So this is the relations between the coefficients and the zeros. So in this way we can easily solve these. Okay, so if we move forward, so we can solve this exercise. If we can see, if we have the 3 zeros like alpha, beta and gamma, then it means it always should be equals to alpha plus beta plus gamma is equals to minus b upon a. Alpha beta plus beta gamma plus gamma alpha is equals to c upon a, and alpha beta gamma is equals to minus d upon a. Now then the division algorithm for the polynomials. Division algorithm for the polynomials, how to use. So this division method we know. This is the method which we already know, that is the long division method. Now suppose the questions comes like this. So divide this by this. So the same way we are dividing with the old method what we have already done. Now if we have to, suppose if we have to just see here, find all the zeros of 2x raised to power 4 minus 3x cube minus 3x square plus 6x minus 2. So you know that 2 of the zeros are root 2 and minus root 2. So if the zeros are given to us, 1 and the second 0, if you write in the factor form, this will be x minus root 2 and x plus root 3. So if you multiply both these, will get x square minus 2. Now we have the product of the zeros, or we converted these zeros as a, yes, what we have done, we have just converted them into the polynomial. Now we are dividing this whole by the given polynomial x square minus 2. So on dividing this by x square minus 2 with the long division method, so we are getting a 2x square minus 3x plus 1. So in the next step, in order to find the other zeros, will split this by using the split the middle term method, or we are just going to factorize this 2x square minus 3x minus 1. So after doing this, after getting its factors, so once we are getting the factors here, we can see here, so its factors are coming 2x minus 1 and x minus 1. So it means its zeros will be then x is equals to 1 upon 2 and x is equals to 1. So these are the other two zeros in this we can find. Okay, so before this, just look here one more thing, one more example. Yes, this is a very important example. Find a quadratic polynomial. The sum and the product of the zeros are given minus 3 and 2. So minus 3 is the sum here and 2 is the product here. So if we say x square plus bx plus c is a quadratic polynomial where the alpha and beta are the zeros, then according to, we know that the sum of the zeros is minus b upon a, that is here it is given as, yes, minus 3. So, and product of zeros, that is alpha and beta is equals to c upon a, here it is given equals to 2. So, if we compare both these equations, we get a is equals to 1, b is equals to 3 and c is equals to 2. So, we will put this value in the standard form. So, in the standard form, the result which we are getting is x square plus 3x plus k. So, one quadratic polynomial which fits the given polynomial is this. So, clear. So, in this way we will get our answer. Okay, so moving towards this, after in the after this exercise 2.3. so based on this only, so we can easily solve these exercise 2.3 and exercise 2.4. so what we have to keep in mind, we have to simply keep all the basic things in our mind, and we have to solve the questions keeping the concepts clear. If the concepts are clear, questions are very easy. We have to follow the same things again and again. So there is no need to worry. So just go through it. If you find any problem, you are most welcome to ask. Thank you very much.